Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino. And today I have a special guest. His name is Jonathan Todd Schwartz. He's a former Hollywood business manager whose life changed after addiction and destructive decision making led to federal prison. Once managing high profile clients such as Beyoncé and Alanis Morissette, Jonathan lost everything before committing to sobriety, accountability, and personal transformation. Now over 8 years sober, he serves as a program director and recovery advocate at the Altus Rehab, where he helps individuals navigate addiction, mental health challenges, and early recovery. Jonathan speaks openly about redemption, resilience, and the mindset shifts required to rebuild life after a public fail. His mission is to show others that no matter how far they've fallen, change is possible through ownership, honesty, and purpose. Hey, Jonathan, how are you, man?
I'm great, thank you. Just one little correction.
Yes.
In May, I'll be 10 years sober.
10 years,
Yeah,
man.
proud of that. Yes.
Yeah, well, congratulations, It's definitely a decade. That's amazing. So,
Thank you.
Jonathan, talk to me about a little bit about you. Where are you originally from, and what is your upbringing like?
Yeah, I grew up with a pretty ruptured family dynamics in upstate New York. I call it the Borscht Belt, the Catskill Mountains. Um, my father left my mom, myself, and my younger brother when I was four. And my mom was forced to take three jobs to put food on the table, roof over our heads, and put, clothing on us. And so I had a lot of childhood trauma. It remained unresolved until I was about 46. I'm 56 today. And I wish I had the courage back then to ask for help sooner and to
Yeah,
understand the importance of dealing with any unresolved, suppressed trauma or emotions. But I just didn't have the courage to ask for help in many areas of my life. And that's ultimately led me to make a lot of poor choices and hurt a lot of people. So growing up it was a beautiful place. I don't
hmm
have many memories of it because of that trauma that took me so
yeah,
long to address. I have since addressed it. It's flushed out. I no longer have any suppressed trauma or emotions. It's because I put in hard work to work on myself, which is part of the daily program of the 12 steps anyway. So,
got it.
after leaving high school or graduating high school, where I grew up, I went to college. I went to three different colleges because my life still continued to have this pattern of
Mm,
living environment instability, college instability, and it was just full of a lot of instability in my life. I don't like to use anything in my life today as an excuse. Those are just contributing factors that there's clinical evidence-based literature that supports all this, but I don't want
yeah.
to bore your listeners with clinical.
No, no,
Um,
definitely.
but yeah, it's fascinating. I went to college, like I said, I went first to CW Post in Long Island and SUNY Albany in New York, and then ultimately finished up my last year and a half at San Francisco State because I had to move away because of some poor choices I made at SUNY Albany. So I went to live with my mom and my stepfather. Uh, Went to school full time, worked part time in the financial district for a CPA firm, a sole practitioner. Learned the skills that I needed to learn to ultimately become a business manager in the entertainment space. And so I have seven cousins in my family that are CPAs. One of them
Mm,
at that time, which is probably in the 1990 period, he basically said, "I'm ready to come on down," and in 1990, I think it was 1990, and work for him. And so it was a great opportunity for me post graduation with my undergraduate degree, post working for 3.5 years within the financial district of San Francisco. And I got a great mentor in one of my cousins who took me under his wings. I was the first one in, the last one to leave. I really had a strong work ethic. Um, and then, his firm was acquired in 1999, 2000 by Chase Manhattan Bank, now JP Morgan.
mm,
Asked if I wanted to get into investment banking, family wealth management. I said, "Cuz, I love you. Thank you for all the opportunities that you afforded myself and my family." Because at that time, I just had one of my three beautiful sons. We
interesting.
moved from San Francisco down to LA. And I joined another firm in February of 2000 with his blessing. I took a small book of business and I went to a business management firm called GSO Business Management. I wasn't made a partner right away. I had to earn those stripes. So I worked really hard and continued with that work ethic. And I had really amazing clients,
Mm-hmm.
incredible people. And ultimately, for a good decade plus, I was a solid business manager with a good reputation and with clients that I respected, and they respected me and the work that I dedicated to them. But my demise came around 2009, 2010. And I don't know if you want me to jump that far ahead now.
Well, before you go on, I want to go back to something that you mentioned that I think it's so important, and people don't realize that. And you said, there was definitely some childhood trauma that you were dealing with, and you didn't really deal with until you were 46, right? And a lot of people don't see that as being that critical. So I want to kind of touch base on that a little bit because I do believe that a lot of times, what we go through between the ages of 0 and 7, right? Even a little bit beyond that, but those are the things that stay with you. And people, we get older, we tend to forget. And because we don't remember, we feel like it's not there. It feels like there's nothing there for us to do. And then we blame some of our habits or the things that we're doing right now, or even to our family, to our kids, right? The things that we're doing, we're blaming that to maybe other external circumstances, not realizing that maybe the thing that is challenging is within you that you need to resolve, yet we don't recognize that. I know you talked a little bit about that in the 12 steps, that healing yourself in the inner self, right? um just touch base a little bit on that, because I do believe that that's, again, it's so critical for us to be able to go back and work on ourselves, like regardless of your childhood, but especially if you had endured different things and challenges. If you don't do that, it's gonna show up, right? And I say that because it did for me too. It's gonna show up down the line, and you got to deal with those things.
Yeah, I would love to touch on it. In fact, yesterday, so now I'm a therapist and a program director at a luxury detox and residential facility called Altus Rehab. And yesterday, as I do most days, I lead at least one group.
Mm-hmm.
And I led a group on ACEs because that was what I did my thesis paper on in grad school, which is an acronym for Adverse Childhood Experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And the intent behind that group was for the clients that just came, to let them know that if you've come here not just with substance use and mental health, but with unresolved trauma, my hope is that you become vulnerable in therapy sessions with me so that we can address your unresolved trauma and transition that before you leave to resolved trauma. Because with unresolved trauma, as ACEs indicates, with its 10 questions, if you answer four of those 10 questions, yes, yes, I've experienced those 10 questions,
Mm-hmm.
just four, that's 40%. You are very likely to carry your trauma into adolescence and adulthood. And that can contribute to maladaptive behaviors, like in me, poor choices, white collar criminal behavior, addiction, like me, chronic illnesses. You're highly likely by hundreds of percent greater chance that you'll have chronic illnesses. I have coronary artery disease. I've had back neck fusions, left hip replacement. premature gray hair at 40 years old.
Yeah.
As a result of the stress that these experiences put on our body. And we're not we're not cognitively, regulated. And so it's really important for your listeners, as you said, if you have any suppressed emotions or unresolved childhood experiences or PTSD, please have the courage to not be like me, but to ask for help sooner rather than later, because your mental and physical health is at stake. And so the clients really resonated with that. And
Mm,
later on in that afternoon, I had a couple therapy sessions scheduled, and they just opened up and cried.
nice.
And to
Yeah.
me, crying is incredibly cathartic. I
Yeah.
cry all the time. I think it's beautiful. It's a way to connect with emotions because most people, myself included, during active addiction, there's no connection to emotions. It's
Right.
fight, flight, survival mode. It's I want to gamble, I want to do blow, I want to numb myself from reality. Well, today with clients, I encourage them there's no reasons to escape reality. Let's
Right.
address at your core what brought you in today.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done.
Yeah. Uh, Talk about addiction, right? And you being a recovering from that and going through that, and obviously also talking about the childhood trauma. Sometimes it could be, it leads because of that. It could be multiple different factors. But let's talk about somebody like you. You were very successful. You had it all. You were, as many would say, on top of the world. And then that led to, addiction. Tell me, was there an empty space? Was there something missing? Because maybe, growing up, there was not both parents. What led to that? Because then that even got worse, where now you were in federal prison, right? So you lost it all. And then the big breakthrough, which we'll get to it in a little bit, but let's talk about it in a second.
Yeah, sure. It's a great question. So, I was, as I said, entertainment world. I was not the talent. I was just a business manager for high net
Mm,
worth celebrities in music, film, TV, and sports. But I was deep down inside because I hadn't addressed this trauma we talked about.
mm,
I was insecure. I had a low self-esteem. I had lack of confidence. Um, and I had to present, like they say in the big AA book, I had to present myself as someone I wasn't,
mm,
that I was Superman, that I was confident. And that took a toll on me because I wasn't. I was someone with very low self-esteem that presented to the community, the entertainment community, and anyone in my life that I was doing well. I was making multiple seven figures a year, but money never brought me happiness because I hadn't dealt with my trauma. And now I'm in active addiction. I'm gambling every day on sports, embezzling money from a handful of clients.
mhm.
And I'm looking at myself in the mirror and saying, Schmuck, you're violating your fiduciary responsibility to your clients. Inevitably, you're going to get caught. You're going to feel the negative consequences of your poor choices. And I thought I was Superman still. I was in denial that I knew
Mm,
one day I would just pay them back. How was I going to pay them back? I can't just give cash of X millions of dollars to the bank from my own bank account.
right.
And so, this led me to a dark place where 6 years I was gambling on sports every day with a bookie, still showing up at work until I started doing blow. And then when I started doing blow, I would call my assistant almost daily and ask her to cancel meetings because I just wasn't emotion available. And I think today it's about being emotionally present. I thought I was a great dad.
Mm,
I'd coached my kids' youth sports teams. But as I've had time to reflect, years to reflect, I realized that physically being present is not as important as emotionally being present.
mm,
So I value a strong emphasis today on being emotionally present. I still have relationships that I'm trying to repair, but in recovery, you don't repair it with the words that come out of your mouth because people don't believe these words that come out of my
right.
mouth. They
The actions.
remember, yeah, they remember the person who was manipulative, dishonest,
Mm,
stole, violated his responsibilities, not just to my clients, but to my beautiful wife at that time, to my beautiful kids, to my mother and stepfather, to my community that we lived in, to the entertainment space. I hurt. an enormous amount of people. And today I practice humility. Today I practice a strong connection with my emotions. Today I am just trying to be of service to my brothers and sisters in the community of 12 step or whatever other community they're involved in. And I make very little money, but I am absolutely blessed and live in gratitude and the happiest I've ever been. And that's, why I want to be on your podcast because I want to spread the message that if I can do it, your listeners can do it. And it just simply starts with having the comfort to ask for help. If I had asked for help, things would have been very different for me and
Yeah,
for others
yeah.
that my poor choices had a ripple effect on.
Yeah. And that's one thing that's a bit challenged, right? A lot of people are challenged with the idea of asking for help because they might either think, or maybe have some sort of a lack of shame by asking for help. And so again, we as human beings, oftentimes we're like, no, especially I think Mel, we can figure this out. We got this somehow, right? And so we're so afraid of asking for help, in my opinion. Now, talking about going through all of that, you're going through all this dark phase, and you kind of lose it all, right? Um, let's talk about the comeback, right? Because I do believe that the choices and the decisions that we make today will determine the quality of life that we have tomorrow. And so, obviously, at one point, whether it was any intervention by you going to federal prison, or it must have been something else, and you can talk about it more in terms of how that came about. But something happened that said, okay, I gotta be a different person. I gotta show up differently. I gotta do different things. So let's talk about that comeback.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in redemption,
Okay.
but there's no redemption unless you take ownership in your choices.
Mm,
I'm a very big advocate for personal accountability. I try to model it daily with the clients. I
yep.
talk about it here with you.
Yep.
I mean, I take full accountability for the choices that I chose to make. In 2009 or 10, I started this gambling. In 2015, it came to an end. And I was with Beyonce in Tampa Bay while she was rehearsing for her Lemonade tour, and I received a call from one of my partners. At that, obviously, after a few years working at this firm I joined, I
Mm,
became a partner. And I lied to them. They said, Alanis called. Alanis had fired me in the fourth quarter 2015 because I wasn't giving her the attention she deserved.
mm,
Frankly, I was paying attention to more active clients, more relevant clients, and that's no disrespect to Alanis, who I respect and adore.
mm.
And people say when I say that, how could you respect and adore and at the same time steal?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to make an excuse, but I have no answer other than that's what happens when someone's in addiction.
Mhm.
They no longer carry any values and integrity within themselves.
And it becomes you're essentially a different person too, right? I mean, you're
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I'm not my authentic self in
right,
active addiction, and I don't know many people in active addiction that are.
right,
Today, I am proud to say that I am my authentic self. The person you're seeing in me today is truly humble and present myself with as my authentic self. But
right.
I had to receive the call. They asked me to come fly back to LA. I told Beyonce I've got to go for personal reasons. I flew back. I met with lawyers at my firm. And I tried to play poker again by still being in deniability with them, figuratively poker. And
Hmm.
that was when I said to them, well, give me a lie detector test. I'll take it and prove that I didn't steal anything. Like, really?
Yeah.
And so, a few weeks after that poker game that I played with them, and I didn't expect them to accept that invitation, I received a call saying, by one of my partners, Michael Oppenheim, may he rest in peace. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple years ago,
Mm.
and he was my mentor, and he was someone whom even today I think about daily and miss.
Yeah.
I never got to make amends to him because he passed away. Um, but he said, I need you to come down to Beverly Hills. I was at this time, with my ex-wife in Santa Barbara on
Mm.
vacation, celebrating our anniversary. And I Googled how to beat this lie detector test. They wanted me to go see a polygrapher, an
Mm.
FBI #1 former agent specializing in polygraphy. And I remember it was May 8th, 2016. I drove down there, hour and a half. I placed my last bet with my bookie. I brought a whole bunch of blow with me. Who goes to a lie detector test on a
Right.
stimulant?
Yeah.
But Jonathan does because Jonathan, I thought I was Superman still.
Yeah.
And I walk in there, very arrogant, high ego, put my leg up on this table, rock back on the chair, and I'm initiating conversations that last about 2 hours. And then, although I Googled how to beat a lie detector test the night before, I never paid attention to the fact that he's actually trying to build a rapport with me. And I'm thinking I'm the one building this great rapport. So when ultimately he connects me to the test and I leave, I think I got this. So I called my wife and I said, I'll be there a couple hours. Let's go have a nice dinner. Hope you enjoyed yourself today at the hotel. When I arrived at the hotel and I tried to log into my firm, I was denied access. So I called my attorney and he said, Jonathan, you failed that test worse than anybody this polygrapher has seen in his multiple decade career. I said, oh, what does that mean? He said, that means you need to get your you know what down to me, see me tomorrow because you're facing 23 years in federal prison based on the sentencing guidelines of how much money you embezzled. So that was that real moment, where that deniability had to stop. Me entering treatment was needed, me getting the help I needed as I prepared to go on this journey, which included ultimately being sentenced because to 6 years in federal prison on May 3rd, 2017. And my attorney did a great job. He got a plea agreement for 4 to 6 years, and the judge gave me what the judge felt I deserved, and I accept that today. I did not accept that on May 3rd,
Right.
2017.
Yeah.
But it was, as I reflect and look back, I needed time incarcerated.
Yeah.
I needed time to really reflect on all of my life, the good, bad, and indifferent. And when I came out of prison, I actually got out early because of COVID and because of my coronary artery disease. I was My immune system was compromised, and so I was put on 16 months of home confinement with an ankle monitor, which might have been even worse than being in prison because you're limited to movement. And then followed by 3 years of federal probation. And again, all of these things wouldn't happen to me if I didn't do what I did. So I don't blame anybody. Sure, did I play the victim role in active addiction? Did I play the victim role when I still had that high ego? Woo me, pity
Yeah.
me? Absolutely, I did. But I don't believe in that anymore. And I started working the steps before I went away. I completed the 12 steps before I went away.
Mm.
I attended AA meetings in prison, not consistently, but with some consistency. I prayed every day. I wasn't very religious. I prayed 3 times a day, every single day. Asked my higher power to please help me. And when I was released to home confinement, I tried to get a job, but I'm a felon. And it's
Mm.
very difficult, despite how educated I am. I took a job at Dunkin' Donuts. I needed that. I came back with humility, but I felt I needed more humility. And
Mm.
working at Dunkin' Donuts helped me get that humility, especially after getting terminated 2 months into my employment because I wasn't mopping the floors or cleaning the countertops well, despite doing that as part of one of my many jobs in prison. From there, I took another job and it didn't work out because of my background. And so that was like a moment where my higher power said, you know what? It's time for you to go to addiction studies school, get your KDAC. It's time for you to go to grad school, get your MFT, and help people like you, your brothers and sisters, as I said earlier, not make the same mistakes that I made. And the greatest joy I get today is waking up super early and going to the treatment center, Altus Rehab, and just asking clients how they're doing.
Mm.
How can I support you today? How are you feeling? And really caring and not being self-centered. Today, I consider it a healthy version of selfish when one sets boundaries.
Yeah.
I've set a lot of boundaries. I have a very small quality inner circle of people in my life by choice. I removed all toxic people from my life, some initiated by me and others initiated by them. And I'm proud of my redemption, and my redemption hasn't stopped. My redemption continues daily by practicing the mantra of the 12 steps is not about it's progress, not perfection. And that progress I would like to see in myself on a daily basis. As you said earlier, I don't seek external validation from others anymore.
Hmm.
That's the time when I was in active addiction and still dealing with my trauma, people pleasing, etc. Today, internal validation by oneself, include myself, is most important. And intrinsically, I'm motivated for myself to be of service to others, but I'm also motivated externally, secondarily, to help others if they want the help.
Yeah. And so I have quite a few questions for you, and I love this year. I love the journey. I love what you've done and the things you've gone through. And there's a lot of things in between that have to come into place, in my opinion, to get you where you are right now. The first one is being incarcerated, right? There's a lot of different things going on, right? Let's talk about some of the lessons, in the hard ones, and then the lessons that you have to learn to really get into the mindset, which is going to be the second topic I want to talk about, because I think there's a huge amount of mindset to be able to get you through, those days, right? And in those dark days. So let's talk about the lessons learned, the good ones, the bad ones, and then the mindset behind it.
Sure. When I first surrendered to prison on July 11th, 2017, after they do the admissions and check-in, if you will, you get an opportunity to walk down to the camp itself, and there's about 400 to 500 inmates, depending on what time. And they see someone like myself walking down. I got the new greens that we must wear, our uniforms, if you will, and I'm wearing orange Crocs. And they know once they see someone with orange Crocs, that person's new. I happened to have someone in prison who knew I was coming, and he welcomed me with his open arms. And he mentored me because for the first 6 months, I cried every day. I'm counting 6 years on it every day, and it seemed like an eternity. And he pulled me aside and he said, Jonathan, you got to stop crying. And even though I said earlier that crying is cathartic, I believe it is, and I do cry often today. But then he made a point. It's time for you to stop counting the days. And so what I decided to do was I would count the Super Bowls.
Uh,
So every Super Bowl is one more year down in my sentence. So some of the good things that I did there and learned from prison was one, the ability to take the time for yourself and reflect. You don't need prison to do that, but I needed prison to do that. To not judge people. I thought I didn't judge people, but when I entered prison, I was judging people based on their appearance, you know, and I realized that, judging people is not healthy. Who am I to judge anybody? I'm in no, it's not none of my business to judge anybody. The person I can judge and change is myself. I cannot judge anybody. So I stopped judging people. And I got a job working in education in the computer room. So I met most every inmate because there's a waiting list. And I was welcomed by every race. I didn't realize that there's segregation, like we have TV rooms that are segregated by race. I hardly went into the TV rooms. I read more books during my time incarcerated than I did my entire life. I tried to seek knowledge. Um, and so for me, there were really actually great lessons learned in prison. I ran a victim impact program in prison where every 9 weeks we rotated about 6 to 8 inmates to take my class. And the premise behind the class was to encourage inmates to recognize that they have victims and to acknowledge that their choices led to having victims and consider making amends, or most importantly, stop making excuses. So, for example, the white collar guys, it took them a couple weeks to accept the people that they harmed. For the drug dealers, it took much longer than that because what the drug dealer would say to me, he would say, Jonathan, if I didn't sell drugs, someone else would have.
mm,
That's not the point. You sold drugs.
right.
You don't know who died from the drugs you sold via an overdose. You don't know who became addicted to the drugs. You don't know if that drug, if the family that you changed and ruptured the dynamics within the family. So I used to hear a lot of those guys on the phone. We get 15-minute phone calls. I would hear them cursing, using disrespectful language to their baby mama. After taking this victim impact program, I could hear them saying, I'm sorry, honey, for all the hurt that I caused you and the kids. And thank you. Thank you for taking care of the kids while I'm here because of my poor choices. And that brought tears to my eyes. And it made me want to continue with running that program. And I did that. And that was probably the most rewarding thing I did in prison. I
Yeah.
never received a disciplinary action notice. I was never put in the shoe. I kept my head down. I focused on one day coming out and being the best version of myself that I could be. And it took me time to reintegrate into society, as I said, with the job,
Right. For sure.
but ultimately my higher power gave me that message, and gosh, life is beautiful today. Do I have challenges in my life today? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But to me, I no longer catastrophize about those challenges. I accept each challenge as an opportunity and hit it head on. And those defects of character that I had, they may rise to the surface from time to time, but through self-awareness that I have, I can change my inner dialogue. You talked about earlier the subconscious mind being formed between birth and 7 years old. You're
Mhm.
absolutely right. It's incumbent upon people like myself with the trauma when they come into treatment or outside of treatment, work with a therapist to rewire your subconscious mind.
Mhm.
We don't have to live in fight, flight, survival mode anymore. The way that we talk to ourselves, positive reality-based self-talk is a critical component to living a meaningful life that includes but not limited to maintaining a sustainable recovery. And so I really work on the neuroplasticity and the neuroscience
Sure.
and changing people's brains. It sounds awful, so I don't like to use words like neuroscience,
Yeah. Right.
neuroplasticity.
Exactly.
I try and keep it simple, and it starts with being self-aware.
Yeah.
If someone can be self-aware, even from your body somatically, if I get tense, I get it in my shoulders. Okay, my body is now telling me I'm getting stressed. In that moment, through my self-awareness, I can replace that negative thinking
Mm.
with positive reality-based self-talk. And that's what I try to help clients adopt as well. It's one of the greatest gifts we can give them. One, the importance of self-awareness. Two, the importance of a singular word. I tend not to use absolutes because that's not healthy for people in recovery. So instead of saying always, I say many times. Instead of saying
Mhm.
can't, I will. And so that's what I do for my personal recovery plan.
Yeah.
Not everything I do is perfect. I'm far from perfect, but I
Yeah.
try my best today to be my authentic self as I am here, to be transparent as I am here, and to take personal accountability as I do almost every day. And I know every day is an absolute.
Yeah, and I love that words do matter, and I agree with you 100%. You know, the words that you say to yourself, more than anything, are so critical, and people don't realize that. And that's one thing that I preach a lot, and I myself try to be selective on the words that I'm using when speaking to other people because I know it makes a lot of difference, and I didn't realize that until going through a lot of my own training and also self-discovery, right? We talked about um the quality, right? Now you're definitely looking at the quality. Obviously, it's been a challenge, and a lot of people would say, hey, you come out of prison, you try to go find a job, nobody wants to give you a job. So you know what? Let me go back to the old habits. And a lot of times that becomes also part of your associations or people you surround with. And I say, hey, you know what? Just go back and do whatever you were doing or whatever the case may be, right? So you're building boundaries now, and you're more selective on the people that are part of your circle. A lot of times that happens to be family, right? Uh, how do we deal with that? You know, people that are really trying to get better at it, because again, you might have cousins, you might have whatever relatives that might be in some bad steps, and to them they haven't been or they haven't gone through the journey, they haven't gone through the challenges you've went through by being in prison, right? So they're like, hey, get back into that. How do you deal with that? Because I'm sure a lot of people that are dealing with addictions or any kind of sentencing might be going through something like that. How do you deal with building those boundaries with family members or close friends?
Oh, you're speaking my language. I love it. So, one of many things that I encourage clients to do is, first of all, most people, the commonality of people in the 12-step rooms, or if you don't like 12 steps, go to Smart Recovery, go to Dharma or Refuge Recovery, go to your church, go to your synagogue, find a fellowship, find a community. But setting boundaries is critical because they're coming in here people pleasing. They don't know how to say no. I did not know how to say no. So now when you set boundaries, it's called assertive communication. It's part of assertive communication. Fancy, that's a fancy name for just healthy communication, right? So how one sets boundaries, and I role play this with them often, is you don't need to over explain anymore.
Mm,
You're setting a boundary for yourself. And that's one of the biggest gifts one can give themselves. And here's why. Because if let's say I have John Doe calling me right in 10 minutes and saying, "Hey, Jonathan, I know it's 8:30. Can you take me to the airport? I got to be there by noon." The old Jonathan would have said, "Of course I will. Anything, because I want you so badly to like me. I'm so insecure. Of course." The Jonathan today understands how to set a succinct, clear, healthy boundary. And so this is what it looks like. Hey, John, unfortunately, I cannot take you. I have other obligations on my calendar. Thank you for asking me. That took 5 seconds.
mm,
Now, if John Doe says, F you, you're an a-hole, and all this stuff, great. When I set a boundary, I don't create an expectation how the person's going to receive it. In that example where he calls me those names, he just gave me a gift. The gift is he's not allowed in my inner quality inner circle that I talked about earlier because he doesn't respect my recovery, my boundary setting. If he would have said, I understand, thank you, I'll call someone else, he would be welcome because he's respecting the important things in my life that I need to maintain my recovery and my journey in this world. And so creating healthy boundaries with family members, with anyone that's you deem toxic is super healthy. And I encourage anyone listening, again, the importance of setting a boundary is not to over explain and spend 3 minutes why you can't go pick someone up at the airport. Under 5 to 10 seconds, bam, that boundary's set. They accept it, beautiful. If they don't, beautiful as well.
got it. Now, assuming that somebody doesn't accept it and you're still kind of dealing with this time after time and you're still letting them in, at what point do you cut the communication or you said, hey, like I really got to step away from this, right? Or how do you handle that, especially if somebody reacts in a form where, they're like F you, whatever the case may be, right? And they're not respecting your boundaries. At which point do you kind of stop the communication or separate yourself from them?
I think immediately. And I think you do it by disconnecting them from your phone.
Okay.
I don't believe in disconnecting someone until you've talked to them about the boundary and you made that first boundary setting. You had that first boundary setting conversation. If they continue to violate your request, don't respect it, and they keep calling you, texting you, then just block them. It's on them, not you. We are not in the business. I am certainly not in the business of changing anyone unless they're asking me to help them. And
Yeah.
even today, with my relationship with my girlfriend, I'm not trying to change her. The only one I'm trying to change daily is myself.
Yeah.
So setting boundaries is vital. And for example, if you talked about family, yeah, it's hard, but I really encourage you to do it. So for example, if an alcoholic has a family whose father, mother, brothers, siblings, whatever, are alcoholics as well, and they invite you over to the house in the first 3, 4 months of your recovery and say, come on over, I would encourage someone to ask, are you guys going to have alcohol present? And if they say yes, then you can say, I respectfully decline your invitation to come because I'm not ready to be surrounded by people who are drinking. And this is, I wasn't an alcoholic, but I don't drink. I don't believe in substituting one addiction for another because my mindset could become addicted to alcohol if I have a sip, and I
Right.
choose not to do that. But that's how you set boundaries with family. Thank you for thinking about me, but I don't feel I'm not ready yet in my recovery. I take a great deal of pride in recovery.
Yeah.
Using my girlfriend as another example, when we go out to dinner and the waiter or waitress asks her if she wants a cocktail, she knows that it's okay to drink in front of me. Like I said, I'll be 10 years in May. She will get a cocktail. When the waiter or waitress then asks me, I say, no, thank you. I'm in recovery. A lot of people early in recovery say, why do you say that? I say that because I don't have to live in shame or guilt. I'm proud of that. I'm in recovery. Recovery has saved my life.
Hmm.
And I'm not preaching to anybody. I want to make myself clear. I'm
Right.
definitely not preaching. I'm just sharing with you the things that have worked for me in my recovery journey, in my redemption phase, in my phase of growth. And I can see it in the clients and how it's changed them. That's the only reason why I'm talking like this.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that. I love the message that I have here, and it says, no matter how far you've fallen, it's never too late to take responsibility, rebuild your life, and create meaningful change. And that's where you are right now, right? I mean, you've lost it all, and you've gone through this. It hasn't been easy. Yet, like you said, you're probably, and I don't want to misquote you, but you're living your best life right now. You're enjoying your life, and you're doing a lot for not just yourself, but for others. Um, Talk to me about there's three things that I've learned in my life, personally for me, and I feel like there's three things that are very important, especially when you're looking at leaving a mark in this life, right? You talked a little bit about having people that have mentored you, right? People that have helped you throughout the journey. I think that's one of the people that are very important. The other are people that might be uh, around your surroundings that want to be like you in the sense of they want to have the same impact, right? Maybe people that are your brotherhoods or sisterhoods that are in recovery. They want to do good for life, right? And then the last one, which I think is where you are right now for me, is now there's people that are probably in a different place below you were not because they're lesser than you, but below you in the sense of they are where you were at one point. And now it's time for you to reach down and lift them up to your level, giving them the ideas and the teachings and all that stuff. This is what I consider to be, in my opinion. I know Jim Rohn talks about it, the average five. That is the average five for me. People that are a mentor, people that are in the same level, but they're not competing with you. They're edifying you. They're helping you through the process. And now the act of service and all being able to give back and raising people up to your level and helping them. And I think that's where you are. So let's talk about what you've already mentioned the things you're doing, how you're coaching, you're helping people in their recovery. Tell me other things that you're doing. Which area is that, do you do this in a specific area, all over the US? Let's talk about more about that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, listen, I first, therapists should not self-disclose
Hmm.
unless they believe that self-disclosure can help a client.
Right.
And clients that come into the treatment center, we have that commonality. So I self-disclose my life experiences that I understand them, not just from grad school's academia.
Right.
They don't want someone that just went to grad school that doesn't have experience in addiction or mental health or trauma. They want someone like myself who's lived through those traumas, through those challenges. And so we can establish almost in session one a therapeutic alliance that's healthy, a therapeutic rapport. I still need to earn their trust. And that's what I try and do. So I just try to model myself. I don't have to model anything other than myself, right? There are people who maybe I'm not the right therapist for, and that's okay because I live in a world of acceptance today. And so I sponsor several people, in Gamblers Anonymous and in whatever other anonymous they're in. And I just be myself. Like, it's really beautiful to be a sponsor, I have a sponsor myself as well. It's important for me because if I become complacent with just one line item within my personal recovery plan, then I'm susceptible to a relapse. I'm susceptible, as you said earlier, to going back to my old patterns and behaviors.
Mhm.
I don't want to because I know what my negative consequences of a relapse would do to me, but more importantly to my loved ones, who like I said at the onset, I'm still trying to earn back their trust.
Right.
And earning back trust doesn't happen on the timeline that we all want. It's been over 10 years that I'm trying to earn back the trust of a loved one. They're not ready yet. And I accept that. I don't play that victim role every morning. Do I cry from time to time because I miss that loved one? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I accept it. And I know one day my higher power is going to put my loved one back in my life. It's not going to be on my timeline. It's going to be on my higher power's timeline. And I believe that. And so I just try to model the best that I can be. And if someone's interested in that, they like what they see in me. They like the risk adverse Jonathan, the
Hmm.
nerdy Jonathan today, then I'll do anything I can to help them.
Got it. Yeah. Where are you located?
Los Angeles, California.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So if people want to find out more about you, more about how they can connect with you, how can they find you?
Thank you for asking. My Instagram, my professional Instagram is at the real Jonathan Schwartz. That's JonathanSchwartz. So at the real Jonathan Schwartz. Please come. You could watch the podcast. You could
Hmm.
hopefully enjoy this one, and we'll certainly put it on once you have it edited and ready to go. And you can private DM me if you need help. I'll call you back. We'll talk. If you don't want to come to treatment at Altus Rehab, I can give you referrals other places. But I just please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm up 24/7. I sleep maybe 4 hours a day because I'm getting calls from clients, I'm getting calls from sponsees,
Yeah.
and I just love to work. I think the one thing I'm addicted to is work, and it's because my work is being of service, and I don't look at it that way.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. No, I love that. Jonathan, you've given us a lot of great content, and I really love all of the things you've shared and the lessons you've shared. Um, Tell me a little bit about more of the things you do on a day-to-day basis. Let's talk about some of your own habits and things you do to kind of keep you up and going the 20 hours that you're awake.
Yeah. Well, what I don't do, and I keep saying I'm going to do, is self-care is a very strong piece of someone's recovery. And as I'm sitting here in my apartment and I'm looking at that Peloton bike that I haven't used in a year, it reminds me that I need to get back into my self-care because if I'm going to be the best version of myself and mentally ready to help someone, self-care, which was once important to me, needs to become important to me again. So that's an area of my recovery plan that I'm deficient in, and I acknowledge that, and I'm motivated to change that. And so that's why yesterday I started the membership, reactivated the membership. What I do on a daily basis is literally just wake up 4:35 in the morning. I get on my laptop. I see what I need to do for today. Who am I seeing today? How do I prepare for seeing this client today? What other things am I leading a group today? What do I want to talk to them about today? It's just really my whole day is consumed with helping people. And I know that sounds weird, but that is where I am today in my life. And it's not weird for me. I actually today am comfortable being alone. Sometimes, my girlfriend says, "How come I don't see you enough?" And my
Hmm.
answer to her is, "Honey, I was very transparent in the beginning. I'm very committed to working and helping others. It is all consuming. If you're open to seeing me once or twice a week, then and having someone who's emotionally regulated in me, who doesn't have a lot of money to wine and dine, but you could see someone who's mature, who's learned from his mistakes, then let's continue our relationship. I love you, honey. And I'm sorry, I'm just not available tonight. I like to come home sometimes and decompress, put on Netflix. I could even watch a football game and not think about gambling like I did last night when my older son who went to Indiana and Indiana Hoosiers won. I could watch it without thinking about what do I have on this game and
Right.
root for my son whose college won the national championship. So these are things I do. I'm boring and I like being boring. I'm simple. I'm a minimalist and I don't need material things. Those things never brought me happiness.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. My last question for you is for the people that are watching us and listening to us, if they're going through any challenge, whatever challenge that might be, what is one thing that they can start doing today to overcome that challenge?
Get on my Instagram and ask for help.
I love that. I love that. Yes. No, that's awesome. Thank you, Jonathan, for everything you've shared today. I really appreciate your presence here today. Any last minute things you want to say before I let you go?
No, I just want to say thank you with great humility for having me here today on your podcast. I hope at least it helps some people.
Yeah, no, definitely. I do appreciate that. And again, thank you again for being here. For the rest of you guys, do me a favor, make sure you guys share this message because definitely somebody needs to hear this. And I will have all the contact information for Jonathan. And also, I will see you at the next episode of You Can Work On Anything podcast show. Thank you. Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.